Hi everyone and welcome to How Good's Footy in Asia, AFL Asia's official podcast. This is podcast 30. I'm your co-host Matty Gale, based in Osaka, Japan, and joining me in Saigon in the south of Vietnam is the great Billy Bang Bang Crang. How you going there, Billy? Bill, are you with us?
Hey, Matty. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure if your internet or my internet's a little bit slow today. Looks like we've got a third co-host in the background there, which is always welcome. I thought we needed a guest today to spice things up, so that's good.
This is Junie Gale. So Jun's just came home early from school.
There
They
he
finish
is.
up early on Wednesdays at Japanese primary school, so the teachers get a bit of downtime. So he's jumped on board for the podcast. He doesn't realise it's going live or what it entails. But we're going to get him off. All right, go and sit down on the couch, mate. Thanks for joining us. Bill, get down to business. How was your footy tips last week? How did you see them? Did you get any decent tips? I know you don't mind the old 50-50 and going on the. You don't like the side of caution. Put it that way.
So yeah, definitely had my best week, I think, so far. I've almost given up by this stage, but had 7 last week, and I know the games I would have got wrong, but I haven't really thought through which games that means I might have got right with the Hail Marys. But probably missed the Crows and the Hawks on Monday. But yeah, 7 out of 9. I think that's almost as good as it's definitely pulled me back from the absolute doldrums of the league. Still a fair way to go.
Yeah, I bombed out on the Crows. Free man, I thought the Bombers might have been a real chance there, and obviously I don't think there would have been too many people that tipped Hawthorn on Monday out of the 85 tipsters in the AFL Asia tipping competition. Bill, we're going to go around the grounds now. Today's podcast is purely based on reviewing the Anzac Day round of football that's been played across Asia, commemorating the Anzac Day spirit. Given that so much historical history from the wars that have taken place in Asia is such an important time of year in our own backyard. So I'm just going to quickly go around the grounds, and we'll get over to you very shortly and give us a decent detail about how footy's looking for you and the experiences that you've had on Anzac Day. So over to the Beijing Bombers. They've got an Anzac Day special coming up there. I haven't heard too much about exactly whether they're bringing that Beijing AFL back or not, but that's what they were hoping to get up and running this weekend on Saturday. So it'd be terrific to see them back in action, given the restrictions that China's had, particularly not so much in the nation's capital, but in southern China recent times. Been a bit of a nightmare over in China. The Cambodian Eagles and the Apsaras have got a special Anzac Day game against their GAA. They've got a really strong and healthy competition going with them. It'll be interesting to see how many players from the GAA actually come across. I know they've had a pretty good amount of numbers that have come across in their female players, despite having really high numbers of local players. AFL Japan over in Osaka, we've got a 3-team tournament taking place. We'll play each other 2 times each. Obviously, our Osaka Dingoes will be the hosting club. The Century Powers, who are a powerhouse university team, have pretty much featured in almost every grand final for the past 5 or 6 seasons. So they're bringing a standalone team, and there'll be 3 teams that'll be making a merged Tokyo team. So the Tokyo Goannas are bringing 6 players. The R246 Lions. No, it is not a droid from Star Wars. It is Michito Sakaki's team. So they're bringing 4 players across, and the Tokyo Bay Suns have got a sole representation, which is William Shee, who's the back-to-back leading goal kicker, I think, or maybe 2 years in a row, 2021. So he'll be coming across as well. So pretty exciting Twilight tournament, Bill, from 5 until 9 here. Interesting to see if the Yosh man can get his second career goal. I'm pretty sure he's pretty keen to get one on there, considering he hasn't kicked a goal since 2018.
But this is his weekend, isn't it? It's his time to shine.
Well, it's the jury's out on the Yosh for another goal, and the jury's out on the Saints and whether they're a top 4 team. But we'll talk more about the Saints a little bit later.
Yeah.
over in Thailand, the Thailand Tigers are venturing down to Kanchanaburi for their annual game as well. So a lot of history, not only with the war, but also the Thailand Tigers, making that a really purposeful game every year, and usually have a really good clash with a visiting team. And obviously that can't take place with the current circumstances. Bill, I'm going to head over to you now just to talk about your experiences. You've played at Kanchanaburi, which you mentioned in a previous podcast, but just the history behind football in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. I spoke to our AFL International manager, Simon Highfield, on our weekly catch-up on Tuesday, and he let me know that the Vietnam Swans have actually got a media story getting released, hopefully ahead of the AFL's Anzac Day round, which is this weekend, about the Vietnam Swans. This is huge. So give us a bit of an understanding about your experiences playing Anzac Day football in Kanchanaburi, in Vung Tau, and also about this particular article that's coming about as we speak with the AFL.
Yeah, so I guess it all kind of fits together in a way. In that we headed to Kanchanaburi on my first ever footy tour, just off the boat, 2008 or nine, I think, and we didn't really know what to expect. You know, we knew it was an Anzac Day game. We knew that you had to be invited by the Tigers at the time because it was one of the only unique kind of specific weekend. It wasn't like a normal tour game where you could pick a date, you know, any time in a 3-month block and get the tour happening. So we were relatively excited, but absolutely blown away when we got there. Went to the Burma Death Railway for the dawn service. At that stage, the World War I veterans who were in attendance were very much very, very old. So it was very humbling to see them at that age, late 90s, getting along to that sort of service and telling some of their stories and some of the harrowing things that them and their mates went through in those days. And then we obviously played the game and got absolutely wiped off the park by Thailand. They were pretty strong in those days. And a bit like I think our Anzac Day games become, they kind of knew what to expect, which was 40 plus degree heat and just big open spaces that you couldn't cover as the day wore on. So we got destroyed. But the takeaway from that weekend was, okay, we live in Vietnam. There's an Australian involvement in conflict. So the kind of Anzac avenues are open a little bit. We should look at doing a little bit more. Just to, obviously, Anzac Day has such a great connection to the AFL as it is in Australia. So we thought, okay, there's some mileage in there for us. And we went ahead and played a Hanoi versus Saigon domestic game the following Anzac Day. Called it the Anzac Friendship Match. There wasn't too much friendship in it. The rivalry between Hanoi and Saigon is brutal. I'd say it's, especially back then, it gets more heated than the international kind of rivalries. So the game was a ripper. And what we didn't expect was that the Aussie community in Vung Tau would be so proactive. So we had a grandstand at what is the dog racing track, and it just filled up by itself. No one expected it. We had a few hundred people there cheering us on in the last quarter, and there was some massive hits and a bit of angst, and the crowd was right into it, feeling it. So we just didn't. Glenn, who owned the local bar down there at the time, had got the community really whipped up, and the day was fantastic. And the big thing that came out of that afterwards was that Stan Middleton, one of the veterans, I should say Stan Middleton, OAN, he always likes that put in there. He was the official historian of the Vietnam Football League, and he came out with this treasure trove of information. And by pure coincidence, the Vietnam Football League had played on what is now the dog track. They had called it the Ward Mayor's Oval at that time, and it had the same gate on the complex that's still there to this day. You can actually see in the photos like a lot of similarities to what is there amongst modern Vietnam today. So we lucked into that, but that field had remained. And so he brought a whole heap of history, and we're like, wow, this is just incredible. We had no idea that such organised AFL had been played during the war. And there's actually a heap of ex-VFL players at the time. Rod Pod is one. There's a couple of big name at the time players that had obviously been conscripted and come over here. So the league was actually at a cracking level. The guys that were playing were pretty high end. So there was about 7 years of football played from the mid-60s through to 1972. I say years, not seasons, because they actually played 2 seasons a year because they were here and they had time. And there was different teams like the I'll get the names wrong, so I won't even try. But Air Force, RAAF, different squadrons and different different parts of the Australian Defence Force, and that became a key part of their existence whilst here in a pretty confusing war. And a lot of those veterans had found a lot of peace in returning to Vietnam since that war and watching the country flourish, the same country that we kind of enjoy day-to-day life in and get so much from these days. So a lot of those veterans connected to our Anzac Day games started contacting the club saying, I've heard about this at the local RSL. Who are you playing? What's next? So we were like, okay, we've got to invite some teams. We invited Hong Kong the next year. And Richard Osborne somehow got wind of it, I think through the veteran angle, and actually showed up to the game and played a half for each team. And that weekend elevated again from the first friendship match with the domestic game. The same thing sort of happened. The local community got right behind it. And from there, the thing just took off year on year. So we've played most of the Asian footy teams now, and it's become the centerpiece of our calendar. And it's a big piece that connects us to a part of the Australian community that probably wouldn't be that interested in, young, mediocre football players having a kick on a weekend. But we've got this connection back to what the veterans were doing, and it's become a real conduit for the Australian community here in Vietnam, especially in the south and especially in Vung Tau. So yeah, it's been a magical part of even my personal kind of involvement with the footy club, and I guess as an expat living in this part of the world, it's been one of the better things to look forward to each year and to be a part of. I guess just to wrap it up, but this year we're into our second year of domestic games. So we're playing in our VFL teams, and then later on we're playing a full AFLW and AFL hit out, which should be good. We've still got pretty solid numbers. So the league teams, I think we've mentioned plenty of times, but there's a sister city. So my team, the 2 Team Tigers here in Saigon, team up with the Han Kim Herons from Hanoi, and each of the other 3 teams from each city have a sister team. So you slot straight in, and we're hoping to expand that to a multi-round VFL across the year where your sister team scores count across each round. So massive weekend. And the other thing, like you mentioned with the Cambodians, we're very excited to have the Saigon Gales and some of the Hanoi Celts along for the weekend. So there'll be exhibition games of male and female Gaelic footy between the league games for the AFL and the actual AFLW and AFLM all-in games in the afternoon. So massive weekend. It's always really exciting to get down there. It's about an hour and a half out of Saigon, but it's a whole other world. You get down, you're by the beach, fresh air, all of those things. And those games have such fond memories for us because of all that stuff that's kind of tacked on the side over the years. So what started by accident almost in Thailand in an absolute drubbing for us as a footy club has turned into basically the backbone of our calendar each year and one of the biggest events, one of the biggest strings to our bow. So incredible stuff.
Yeah, it is incredible, Bill. Thanks for sharing. Just for those listeners or viewers at home who are going to watch this podcast now or live, 17th year of the annual Anzac Day Clash in Kanchanaburi for the Thailand Tigers, which is a phenomenal effort and a brilliant tradition they've created It's obviously inspired your club as well, Bill.
Yeah.
Before we move on to some AFL action, just a little bit more around the grounds. The Philippine Eagles are coming back for, I think, their second official PAFL game this weekend. I haven't heard a lot out of the Philippines of late. And the Malaysian Warriors released their fixture in their 30th year anniversary, and they have their first domestic game coming up. I expect some more comms to come out of the Malaysian Warriors in the next day or two. And the Singapore Sharks are back this weekend for their first training of the year, which is brilliant news. Considering last year in Singapore, it was a maximum 5 participants per group, which is quite difficult if you're trying to organise games. So good luck to all the young Singapore Sharks, the biggest Auskick and junior development program in the world. And I hope we haven't thrown the AFL media under the bus with that article, Bill. It's a bit preempted, but let's hope it gets a run. Let's hope it gets a run, but we'll leave that as it is, and just we'll keep our eyes peeled because I'm sure to watch this space in the coming days. We'll share it on our socials if it gets the go ahead. Now, let's go to the tips of this week. We're going to have a short podcast this week, given time is very short and limited. This week's games, interesting round. Last week, the 50-50 games is not as many as the first opening rounds, thank goodness, because it's a tipster's nightmare early. Yeah. The Friday night clash, they're heading to, I think, the Manuka Oval. Yes, they're heading to Canberra. Friday night clash. The Giants in much need for a win with St Kilda in a top 4 position. They're top 4 for scoring and top 4 for defending. Toby Green comes back from his 6-match suspension, and he'll eject a lot of speed and some scoring prowess that they've been lacking in their forward line. Bill, I'm actually tipping the Giants to bounce back. I'd like to see another month of St Kilda. I'm not 100% convinced. I don't think I've tipped them correctly, whether they've won or lost at all this year. You tip Max King is the leading goal kicker in the league, and he's right up there. And he can turn a match in one quarter, but I'm going with the Giants at home to get their second win for the year.
Are you actually tipping them, or are you just? I mean, it's an easy thing to say. It'd be a brave tip.
No, I've done my tips already, so they're locked in.
You've done it? Wow. Yeah, congratulations. I, as you say it sort of gets me thinking. But they, I watched them last weekend, obviously versus Melbourne, and they were brave in the first half, in some sense. But then, to see what happened to them in the second half, it's hard to think. But actually, I don't know if anyone can avoid that when it starts. So I like it. I like your tip there. I'll still tip the Saints. I'm on the edge now. I've seen enough that I'm starting to say. I watched them versus the Suns last week, and it's tough up there, I think, at the moment on the Gold Coast, and they basically just stuck to their guns. And geez, they get going, the Saints. Once they get those turnover balls, all of them just streaming forward, which they've been doing for a few years, and they're just starting to get a bit more defensive integrity. So I'll still tip the Saints, but I don't mind that Giants upset, especially in Canberra.
At the moment on the AFL, ESPN AFL Asia footy tips, there's only 18% of people who have tipped GWS, and I don't mind that at all because I need a bit of a catch-up. I'm 48th position out of 85 at the moment, which is unlikely. Let's move along to the Saturday early fixture at Mars Stadium down in Ballarat, isn't it? Mars.
Yeah, Mars.
10th place Western Bulldogs. Normally they have a scheduled game during the year, and it's usually about 5 degrees in Ballarat when they play. They're very windy. The Bulldogs take on a very bullish Adelaide Crows, who to some upset the Richmond Tigers last Sunday, on Easter Sunday. I definitely didn't tip my Crows, and I think they're punching above their weight at the moment. With Tex Walker, it's really straightened them up in their forward line. Bulldogs in their game against North Melbourne on Good Friday really started off with a bang, and it's very hard to play 4 quarters of AFL footy nowadays, and they played 3.5 convincing quarters. I think it might have set their season back up. They restructured their forward line to support Norton. They moved Cordy up there. Waitman had his best game for his career, kick 5. A couple of dodgy free kicks as usual, as you'll probably allude to. But played Bont a little bit more forward as well, really straightened them up. I expect the Bulldogs to win this pretty easy, I think. The Crows, a young and developing side, playing nicely, but this one's playing away from home is a really tough one for a young developing side. But I'm going to tip the Bulldogs about 5 or 6 goals, Bill.
Yeah, I think the Bulldogs pretty comfortably. I think the Crows will be up from last week too, and that's always a bit dangerous for a young team. I like the Dogs when they put Bont forward. I think that they've got all those midfielders who are struggling to get a run through the guts anyway. They might as well stick to that and play him as the I mean, yeah, who are you going to focus on? Norton or Bont? It's a really tough decision to give a defense. Whereas when he's not there, it's not so tough at all. So Dogs pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I heard Zane Cordy mentioning during the week that he actually played a specific role to do some blocking to give Norton a free run. And I tell you what, he's getting closer every week to that mark of the year that we predicted earlier in the season. Yeah. The twilight game on Saturday is at the Adelaide Oval. The bottom place, Port Adelaide, very disappointing year, take on the equally disappointing West Coast Eagles, who got demolished on their home deck by ruthless Sydney Swans. Yeah, it's going to be a battle of almost a wooden spoon at this stage, but both of these sides you suggest will be better as the season progresses. I'm tipping Port to get their breakthrough victory against a really underdone and undermanned West Coast Eagles. They're slowly getting their numbers back, but if the players have come out of the COVID, whether it's been COVID protocols, and I think most of them have had it, does take some time to recover and get that match strength and get it back under the tank there. So I think Port will get a breakthrough victory. Port are slowly getting some players back. They've got Alir who looked underdone, but he'll be better for the run. I think Zach Butters will break through in the next month. He had a couple of disappointing games and carried a few injuries, but Travis Boak, I tell you what, he's had a fantastic year. Started with another fantastic year, and if he was a Melbourne-based player, which he is from Geelong, he'd be highly recognised within the Melbourne media a lot more. But Port, but not convincingly, and a battle of the two teams that neither team will look like winning until probably deep into the last quarter.
No, I think Port quite convincingly, actually. I think the Eagles they'll struggle. They're going to take a month or two to, they're basically doing their pre-season now where they're trying to front up every week. I think that this is it for Port. They might feel like they got some momentum in the second half, but I don't know if momentum against Carlton is so much. Everyone gets momentum against Carlton at some stage. But Port should be comfortable at home. Kenny's drawn a line in the sand. He's gonna put it on them. If you want to see the back of me, boys, just have a flat next 2 hours. And I think they'd have enough respect for their coach to get it done comfortably.
Kenny's a 10-year coach. He did mention in his first year they were 5-0, and then they went five straight defeats.
But they weren't. I know he mentioned that they weren't,
and they still made finals.
They've never been 5-0 is another thing I've seen published everywhere. So I think they might have. Yeah, I saw him say that, but then I also saw Port have never been 0-5. So I feel
No. They started the season 5-0, 5 wins, 0 losses.
And then they dropped 5 later on. Okay.
And they went 5-0, and then they were 5-5. They lost the next 5.
Yeah, okay. So he's trying to flip that script. Fair enough.
Which is exactly what happened in his first year out of his 10 years. Moving along to the first Saturday night game, we have at Optus Oval over in Perth, the all-firing Fremantle Dockers off the back of Matt Taberner's 7 goals against the Bombers at Marvel last Sunday. They're firing on all cylinders, and I tip them to maybe be a bottom 8 side, or one of those sides that's on the edge of making the 8, and it's quite surprising. They're sitting second on the ladder at the moment. No one really considers them a top 4 team, or even some people are suggesting they're almost a lock for the finals. But the next 4 to 6 weeks, I reckon we'll know enough about the Freo Dockers by the bye round, and we'll know equally as much about the Carlton Blues, who are sitting in 6th position, playing some fantastic football. Getting, I don't know whether they get sidetracked at halftime. They're singing the club song at halftime or not, but they're getting a bit far ahead of themselves. And let's just say they're showing enough character to hang on to their detriment. So I'm going to tip the Dockers just purely that it's over in the West. We'll know a lot more about these two teams once this game is completed. But Andrew Brayshaw is probably leading the Brownlow. He's leading the AFL Coaches Association's votes at the moment. And it'll be interesting to see if Cripps comes back in for the Blues. Bill?
Yep, I'll agree with you there. I think Freo, mostly because it's at home. They looked a bit shaky early rounds, but they've started to put a good body of work together. And they're lucky they got out of that St Kilda game, because that being 4-1 now looks really good for them if they can get a few more rounds, and then they get Fife back later in the season. So interesting.
Okay, the first Sunday game is down in Launceston at the Blundstone Arena. Actually, that's Hobart they play. North Melbourne. There's actually two games down in Tasmania this weekend. So North Melbourne taking on Geelong. North Melbourne probably the worst team in the AFL at the moment. They're getting just stitched up in every area of the ground. Showed plenty of spirit, despite going down by about 50 points against the Bulldogs. They came out in that second quarter and showed a bit. But, it's worrying signs for North Melbourne, whether they get a priority pick at the end of the year. I think they probably warrant one. And Geelong just going about it nicely. Sitting in 7th, just doing enough. Dropped a couple of games that they probably could have won. But, Cats too strong. Write your own ticket. 8 to 10, 12 goals down there. And Hobart. Bill.
Yeah, Cats will look to bounce back. North Melbourne, I'm not really sure what their kind of plan is going forward. Leave it at that. But the Cats they'll need to bounce back after dropping that game for the Hawks.
Twilight game, cute clash up at the Gold Coast at Metronome Stadium. Gold Coast playing reasonably good football. We hope they have a breakthrough year. On the verge of the 8 and show some real signs that they're developing and heading in the right trajectory. Brisbane Lions, on the other hand, sitting in 12th position, doing plenty. I think they're a lock for a top 4, maybe even a top 2. Everything looking in their favour list-wise. I think the development of Zorko going down back has really helped them rather than going through Rich, they've become a little bit too predictable, but Zorko just gives them another avenue to bounce out of defence and build forward momentum. I think this game is a little bit closer than we believe. It should be an easy win to Brisbane, but I'm thinking it might be under 5 goals, which would be a good effort for Gold Coast at home and give their fans something to look forward to moving forward. Bill?
Yep, I've tipped the Lions, but I think this would be the sort of game that the Suns have really steeled themselves for. Here we are. This is where everybody's sort of watching to see which way we head from here. It's a big opportunity for them, but I just don't quite see them as being good enough to get it done. Everything Brisbane's doing looks pretty tracking in the right direction. Yeah,
I agree. Okay, the Sunday night games. So it's very rarely a Sunday night, but given that this is an Anzac Eve clash. Richmond sitting in 11th position. Pretty shaky at the moment. Richmond, you expect that they'll improve, particularly if Dusty comes back in the coming weeks. But playing your D's, Bill, Melbourne are absolute powerhouse at the moment. They've conceded 4 goals in 5 first quarters this season. So they're a fast starting team. You can't peg back. If you're down quarter time, it's very hard to come back. And as has been mentioned in the media, they're probably only running at about 70 or 80%, and they've got another layer of improvement to come and growth and natural development and momentum. I think Melbourne's just going to be too easy. 6 or 7, Bill?
Yep. I'd tip the D's. That's a pretty stunning stat because I think the teams that they're playing are absolutely throwing the kitchen sink in those first few quarters too. And they're kind of taking delight in taking what you've got and then coming back the other way and running straight past you. So, Yeah, you're always worried, but they should be pretty comfortable in that one. Be a good stage for them.
Okay, Monday we've got 2 games on Anzac Day down in Launceston at University of Tasmania Stadium. The Hawks, who upset Geelong on Easter Monday, taking on the Swans, who were very ruthless in their decimation of the West Coast Eagles over in Perth at Optus Stadium. Sydney absolutely flying at the moment. Hawthorn are playing above themselves and really thriving under new coach Sam Mitchell. I suspect that Sydney will be too strong, but Hawthorn do play Launceston really, really well. Heaney's in really hot form at the moment. Cullen Mills is in Brownlow medal form as well. But I just see too many winners over the field against an much improved Hawthorn outfit. I'm going to suggest that Sydney Swans by 3 or 4 snags, Bill.
Yep. I think I watched the Swans against the Eagles, and obviously the Eagles were miles off it and probably struggling to get back into the groove. A lot of their players coming back in, but the Swans just made it look like witches' hats. Hawks I think it could be a good game for 2.5, 3 quarters, and then I expect the Swans to kick away and win by a few goals. It's 9:30 my time, that game, which is pretty nice on a Monday morning. No public holiday here in Vietnam, but can set the phone up on the desk, get through to lunchtime on a Monday, so I don't mind that.
Yeah, it starts 11:30 over here in Japan, so I'll get most of the game on my lunch, or some of the game on my lunch break. But a little bit hard teaching all day on Mondays. One of the favourite clashes over the years has been the Anzac Day clash. Traditional time slot, Anzac Day every year. Bombers have the home game this year. They're suffering. They're bleeding goals. They're really struggling. Peter Wright's been instrumental up forward. Midfielders falling over here, there, and everywhere. Collingwood have been really good this year under Craig McRae. They're just taking the game on, and they just keep pegging at teams until they bust open. So they've been pretty good. If the Bombers had beaten Fremantle, I would have tipped Essendon this week, and there would have been a chance for 3-3. But they're in a world of pain. I'm going to tip the Pies. Not really convinced that they're going to win, but on paper they should win this. I'm going to say under 10 points in a close one.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny how those big games like the Easter Monday, Anzac Day, Queen's Birthday, I remember always as well. Whilst Melbourne were hopeless, they'd show up on Queen's Birthday, and it always came down to. And I think Collingwood beat Melbourne on Queen's Birthday last year. So it'll probably be a lot closer than I'd expect, but I'd definitely be tipping the Pies. Is Stringer close to coming back, or just?
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, they're pretty.
Not this week.
They need him. They need him a lot. But on those
classic
classics, just talk about Queen's Birthday and Anzac Day. Easter Monday was another classic example of. Doesn't matter where they are on the ladder. Showdowns are the same. They're always the same. Doesn't matter where they are on the ladder. I'm not so much sure about derbies. Definitely not Q clashes and Battle of the Bridge. Yeah, they can go either way, but both teams have been pretty successful of recent times. Bill, we're going to head over to the tribal sport, yes and no. I'm actually going to change this. I'm not going to call it yes, no. I'm going to call it yeah, nah. Yeah, nah. Yeah. Because if you think, yeah, nah, yeah, all right, yeah, you can change it. All right, so you fire away with your questions first. I'll hit you with a sledgehammer next.
Yeah, righto. So I'll start with some AFL. Matty, will the Saints? We'll start with Freo. Will Freo make a preliminary final this year? Play in a preliminary final?
No.
Will the Saints play in a preliminary final this year?
No.
Will the Blues play in a preliminary final this year?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
No, they won't. No, because I know the top 4 teams that will be playing. No, they won't.
Okay. So, will Adelaide be the next South Australian team to play AFL finals?
AFLW, yes.
No, AFL Men's Finals.
That's a tough question. Yeah, because Port are where they are.
Yep.
Oh, I think Port's probably got one more year. No.
Will Jordan DeGoey be at Collingwood next year?
You must have read my questions.
Ah.
Yes.
Okay. You can still ask me that. I'll go the other way.
I've got a different answer anyway.
Okay. Is AFL umpire performance something that the AFL also needs to address if umpire respect is to be improved?
Yes.
This one, a bit of an AFL Asia wildcard. We don't have too many viewers today, being late, so hopefully I don't get picked up on this. Do the Malaysian Warriors have enough frequent flyer points banked to win the champs again in another milestone year for the club, anniversary year for the club?
No.
No. Okay. Over to you. That's my 6.
Okay. My questions. There's 3 that are similar, but are different because you've gone prelim. Okay. Will North Melbourne win this year's Wooden Spoon?
Yes.
Will Ken Hinkley see out the season?
Yes.
Will Ken Hinkley coach the remaining year of his contract next year?
No.
Should Essendon throw the kitchen sink at Jordan DeGoey?
No.
Should the AFL get rid of the ruck nomination to save time?
Yes.
Is Luke Jackson the AFL's next megastar?
Yes, one of.
Will Luke Jackson play his entire career at Melbourne?
Yes.
Ooh, that's
Yes, of course he would. Why would he not?
Nick Natanui retire, lots of money in the bank.
That's Tim English's job.
Oh yeah, that's another likely destination. Okay,
He's signed. I think they just
Ken St Kilda
put a sold sign in his new house.
Can St Kilda maintain their top 4 form for the remainder of the season?
Yes.
Can Freo maintain their top 4 form for the entire season?
Yes.
If you were playing in the AFL, would you be a serial 50-metre offender for dissent type behaviour?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. That's what I thought. All right. Thanks to Tribal Sport for the yes or no segment for this week on How Good's Footy in Asia, AFL Asia's official podcast. Bill, we're going to wrap it up early. 38 minutes. Been plenty of things to talk about. Good luck to you this weekend down in Vuntao.
Thanks, mate. Good luck up there.
Osaka Dingoes. One of my last tournaments here in Asia that I'll be playing in. But good luck to you and your team this weekend, whether you're playing or not, or whether the team that you're following. And don't forget, How Good's Footy in Asia. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, Bill. Catch you, everyone. And thanks and bye.
Thanks, Matty.